Hey guys, just a reminder, if you want to hear all of these wonderful B Plus podcast episodes completely ad-free, make sure you head over to Patreon or Podbean, where we are the featured podcast this week. You can subscribe for as little as $1 a month up to $10 a month, where anything you want to help us with, it really helps out. It's going to help us grow the site. It's going to help us redesign some things, and everything that we get through this and through the advertising as well is all going straight back into the podcast so that we can get Aussie Grapps out there for the rest of the world to hear about, for the rest of the world to see, so we can grow this mission of watch global, support local, and build indie wrestling. So if you want to be a part of that and get some really cool rewards like call-in shows, bonus episodes, ad-free like I mentioned, then head over to patreon.com/theb+ and subscribe today.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event of the evening.
Hold one, arm drag.
You're not good at this. Get out. Let me tell you a personal story about Vince McMahon.
You just made the list.
Oh my God!
Sorry, no speak English.
Dummy. Goodbye and good night. Hold two, arm bar.
It's still real to me, damn it!
Dummy.
This is the worst town I've ever been in.
Hold three, the moss covered, three-handle family grudunzel.
Mamma mia!
And now,
Unchained.media presents the B Plus Podcast with your host, Greg Unchained.
It's me, Austin! It was me all along, Austin!
number four, armbar.
I will never retire!
We still got 200 more. I got 200 more holes to list.
Alright, fellow B Plus players, welcome to the B Plus Podcast. I am your host, Greg Unchained. Today is Friday. You know what that means. It's Aussie Grapps Day. It's our favourite day here at the B Plus, not just because it's Friday and we're all wrapping up work and wrestling's right around the corner, but because today is the day on the podcast where I sit down and take a look at everything that happened this week in the world of Australian professional wrestling news. I also like to speak to an Aussie grappler or grappler adjacent person. This time around I'm doing something different. We have our first ever international guest. You can see it in the title. His name is Emman the Kid. A lot of you were expecting James Storm after the Hunter Valley Wrestling announcement. I'm sorry to disappoint. My first international interview is Emman the Kid. He's a young kid from Malaysia who is actually moving to Australia. Really fascinating, so stay tuned for that. But of course, I also, as I mentioned, I like to break down everything that happened in the world of Australian wrestling news. Now, some of you who know me will know that this week, a lot of you know because I talk about it on the podcast, I'm very open with you, probably more open than I should be, but I have a hernia. It has become a double hernia this week. I have been in a lot of pain. I've been down and out with pain meds and laying down and resting and trying to ice it and all that sort of fun stuff, waiting for a surgery. Who knows when that's going to happen, but in the meantime, I've been trying to stay on top of everything. However, sometimes, you know, when you're in and out with pain meds and all that kind of thing, you sometimes miss some things. So please bear with me. If there's anything that should have made the news this week but didn't, it's entirely possible that I missed a thing or two this week. And for that, I do apologize. But I did my best, and I pulled together the best week of the news as I saw it, as it came across my timeline. So let's dive into this week in Aussie Grapps news. Starting off strong with the thing that I alluded to just prior, Hunter Valley Wrestling have announced James Storm is headed to Hunter Valley Wrestling. For my money, James Storm, the former Impact star, of course, former TNA star, he's one of the best tag team wrestlers of the last decade or so. I'm very curious to see what capacity he's coming down in. Is he going to have a singles match? Is he going to have a tag team match? Who will he team with? Who will he face? If it's a singles match, who's he going to end up facing? The March 23 show that they've got coming up that James Storm has been announced for is huge. So they held their annual Rumble event last weekend, and Slade Mercer made his triumphant return to the territory to win the Rumble and become the #1 contender for the Hunter Valley Wrestling heavyweight title. His celebrations were interrupted by Damian Slater, though, who showed up by video link and challenged Slade to a match at the big March 23 show. So you got to think You got to think, the way I'm looking at it, Slade's probably, I'm hoping Slade picks up a win here to heat him up heading into a match now that he's the number one contender on the back of winning that Rumble match. You got to think that they'll want to heat him up moving into a match against Alex Titan, the longest reigning HVW champion, who we spoke to last week. You can go back and listen to that one in the archives. A win over Damian Slater, that's going to heat you up. Like, if a Rumble win doesn't heat you up, a win over Damian Slater heats you up. So Damian Slater coming into Hunter Valley Wrestling for a match against Slade Mercer at the next show on March 23. That's going to be amazing. But Alex Titan has a big challenge of his own on March 23 in the form of Gavin McGavin. A lot of people showing up by video links. EPW champion versus Hunter Valley Wrestling champion. I don't know if the titles are on the line here, if it's a winner-take-all, or if it's just an exhibition match between the champions, but either way, when you have a champion versus champion match, that is a big deal. If somehow this is all being done to like really heat up that eventual Slade vs Titan rematch, which I have an inkling that that's what's happening here. We're gonna get some big wins for Slade and Titan, leading into the eventual rematch where Slade can get his hands on the guy that forced him out of the territory to begin with. But there's always other ways it could go. Could the two of them let their personal feud get in the way? Maybe they both lose. Maybe we leave March 23 with Gavin as a dual champ and Slater as the number one contender after beating Slade Mercer. I don't know if the number one contendership is on the line either, but it's an interesting scenario either way, and Hunter Valley Wrestling really seemed to be turning things up in 2019. It's an exciting place to be, so exciting. It's not surprising that James Storm wants to be a part of it. Adam Brooks wants to be a part of it. He's coming up for a show as well. Hunter Valley Wrestling doing big things in 2019 from the looks of things. But that's not all that we had this last week in the way of announcements. Mayhem Pro recently announced their second show, or episode, as they call them. Similar how Progress have chapters. Suplex here do chapters as well. Mayhem Pro are doing episodes. I really like it. I like calling them episodes. I think it's a very accessible, friendly name for a wrestling show. It's an episode. So episode 2, what were we thinking? Matches are starting to roll out for this one. That one's going to take place on February 10th. It's a Sunday wrestling in Melbourne. Very exciting stuff. Tyson Baxter, Fever Pitch TB versus Dowie James has been announced for episode 2. Teacher versus student. Big match for Tyson Baxter off the back of his Melbourne City Wrestling debut, where he's impressed. A lot of people, a lot of eyes are on Tyson Baxter and Jet Ruka at the moment, and having Tyson Baxter take on Dowie James at this Mayhem Pro show. I mean, it's taking a future big money match away from Melbourne City Wrestling. It's going to make Melbourne City Wrestling have to work a little harder to promote this match in the future, but Tyson Baxter, Dowie James, teacher versus student, story writes itself. That's really fantastic stuff. A big match for Tyson Baxter, looking forward to it. We also found out this week that Wet and Slick, that is the team of Mitch Waterman and Nick Berry, will be facing off against Camby and Lindo. Camby and Lindo got the win over them at episode 1, and they've demanded a rematch. It was a really good match, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing them go at it again. These guys have an innate chemistry, these teams. I mean, we've seen them team elsewhere before and face off against each other, and it's always exciting. I wouldn't have been surprised to see the first match end up on people's year-end lists. It was a really fun match, and now we get to see it again to kick off the year in Mayhem Pro. Very exciting stuff. Also, Vance Adams was pretty upset at the end of episode 1 after being booked for a commentary role. He demanded a match, subsequently lost to Dowie James, and now he's claiming, of course, that he wasn't prepared. So he wants a proper match, and he wants this one announced ahead of time, so he has time to prepare. Mayhem Pro management responded with a match against JXT. So, Mayhem episode 2, it's starting to take shape. What were we thinking? We're thinking JXT versus Vance Adams looks like a very exciting match. That's what I'm thinking. So I'm looking forward to this one. I'm hoping this one ends up... The first show ended up on YouTube for free. I'm hoping this one does as well. Put a couple shows out on YouTube for free before you move them over to a Vimeo service or something like that. I think that's a good way to build a base. I'm very excited to see, if Mayhem Pro can keep up the quality from that first show, because the first show was very exciting. I enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to see what they do for episode 2. In other announcements this week, World Series Wrestling announced Chris Basso is returning for this upcoming tour. He has a really good history with World Series Wrestling. He's been involved since the reboot, some very high-profile matches. He closed out the last tour with a win over Slex, making him 1-1 with the business. Could we see them settle the score on this tour? I would love to see them up the ante and have some kind of stipulation match, maybe a 2 out of 3 falls, or even put him inside a cage. Has World Series Wrestling had a cage match? I don't think they have. I think that'd be amazing. Just something similar to that, just to put this little feud to bed. They also announced this week Flamita is coming out to join his sometimes tag partner, Bandito. We're going to see them in one-on-one matches. Maybe we're going to see them face off against each other. To see Flamita and Bandito challenge against the tag champs Villain Enterprises will be fantastic. Just thinking about the matchups they could have with some of our Aussie teams is insane. Flamita and Bandito versus the Bassos comes to mind. It would be an amazing contrast in styles. The Perea or Street Gang Hooligans would make fantastic opponents for them. In Sydney, I'd love to see the Velocities get the call to take these guys on. There's a lot of potential matchups, and that's not even looking at the one-on-one potentials there. We also know that Joey Ryan is going to be returning. It would not be a World Series Wrestling tour without famous stick wrestler Joey Ryan, of course. But the big announcement, as far as I'm concerned in the world of World Series Wrestling, is the World Series Wrestling debut, or debut, as it were, of Gino Gambino. Will he and Robbie Eagles rep the Bullet Club? Maybe Gino's going to be in Robbie's corner to help him fend off the Invaders coming for that WSW World title. Maybe, Gino is a world champion in his own right. Does he challenge his Bullet Club brother to a showdown? Does Gino vs. Brody King comes to mind as well as a hell of a match if I'm doing some fantasy booking. It's really good to see a new addition to these tours, because a lot of the time they're using a lot of the same talent, which is good. It's building like a promotion base, but it's good to see someone new come in and add that little bit of extra, potential to the matchups, and especially someone as world-class as Gino Gambino. Very much looking forward to what he brings to the table, what he contributes to World Series Wrestling. But while we're on the topic of the MCW World Heavyweight Champion, Gino Gambino, he has also been announced for Iron Fist Pro's Way of the Fist here in Adelaide, March 15th at the Estonian Hall. Gino filled in last minute for an injured Davis Storm on the first Iron Fist show. He ended up taking an L to Tommy Knight. Tommy and Gino have gone back and forth on Twitter a little bit, so could we see Gino come to try to get his win back over the rookie? Could he have something else in mind? There's a lot of exciting talent converging on Adelaide for the Iron Fist shows. The Rascals, of course, heading out to our shores. Robbie Eagles coming down. Street Gang Hooligans. J.K. Moody. The Velocities. Not to mention a who's who of Adelaide wrestling as well, with representatives from almost every company here in South Australia being announced. But last week we got a big one. Zach Sabbath, the new Riot City Wrestling champion, former guest of the show. He's been announced for Iron Fist Pro Way of the Fist. We have top representatives from every Adelaide company now as a part of this show. So the potential matchups are amazing, just mind-blowing. I would love to see AJ Istria and Zach Sabbath have an exhibition match. I mean, we talked about champion versus champion up in New South Wales with Gavin McGavin coming over. He did one with Ricky South. He's doing one upcoming, of course, at Hunter Valley Wrestling with Alex Titan. How amazing would it be to see the Riot City Wrestling champion and the Wrestle Rampage National Australian champion, AJ Istria, Zach Sabbath, see those two face off? I mean, even if it's not in a one-on-one, I don't know if the politics of the local scene will allow something like that, but just the idea of them interacting in any way on a show, whether it's, as part of a pull-apart brawl and they lock eyes and maybe they go at it, or a tag team match, anything, any way that you can have two champions, especially champions that are so close to each other geographically, to have them facing off and interacting is very, very exciting, no matter how small their interaction may be. It's even if they just pass each other in a hallway, each wearing their respective belt, like it's one of those moments, it's very exciting stuff, and it's the kind of thing that can only happen in Iron Fist Pro from the looks of things. I don't know how they've done it, how they've managed to get people from every single company into this one show, but it's very exciting, and I cannot wait to see the best of Adelaide step in the ring with the best of Australia and the best of the world with the Rascals coming down. It's going to be an amazing show, and if you're not there, I don't know what you're doing. If I was in another state, I would be flying here for this one. Staying close to home here in Adelaide, though, it looks like Jimmy C isn't doing well. Jimmy C, of course, is the former Riot City Wrestling general manager, and he lost his job not too long ago when Hammer defeated Kurt Barron in a key versus control match at RCW 200. So that was back in September. So Jimmy's been out of work since September, it seems. And some videos have surfaced on social media. He appears to be going insane. Is probably the best way to put it. He's got nothing to do. He's spending his time innovating new ways to consume Milo, which is interesting. Apparently, he's being allowed to show his video resume on the RCW social medias to try to get a new job. So that drops this afternoon as you're listening to this. That's going to drop on Friday on the Riot City Wrestling social medias. So definitely check those out. I'm worried for Jimmy C, guys. And anyone who's listened to this show for a while knows that I was quite the fan of his work. He was, he was a controversial GM, but who isn't? The GM role comes with a certain level of controversy built in, has a lot of responsibility in that role, and often people who take those roles don't get the credit they deserve. So, I don't know. I hope Jimmy C lands on his feet. He's an invaluable asset to any company. I'm sure there will be some Riot City Wrestling wrestlers, some men in the locker room who could absolutely find value in his services. So hopefully this video resume helps him out. Maybe we'll even get to see him in person at Reanimated. That would be fantastic. But yeah, keep your eyes peeled to the Riot City Wrestling social medias for Jimmy C's video resume. That should be launching this afternoon. Last week we had some title changes all around the country. Up in Queensland, Tar Lee became the new Venom Pro Wrestling Women's Champion after defeating Aria Rain and impressive Indy Hartwell. Tar Lee, of course, is popping up everywhere this year, doing amazing work since returning from America. You can catch her on the Turnbuckle this week as well. She's on the show apparently debating the merits of various fast food outlets' chicken nugget offerings. They've got a poll up on their Twitter if you're interested in debating, which it's KFC. I don't even know how there's a debate about this. KFC have the best chicken nuggets. If you think otherwise, you're basic. KFC, obviously. I mean, chicken, it's in the name. Kentucky Fried Chicken. Hungry Jack's isn't going to have the best nuggets. McDonald's isn't going to have the best nuggets. They're burger joints. KFC is a chicken joint. It's in the name. Of course they have the best I don't even know why this is a conversation. Get on the Twitter and vote KFC. Anyone else is wrong. Anyway. Getting very carried away. Now I understand why they talked about this. It's a very contested topic. I can understand now. Title changes. We had title changes this year. So Tar Lee, new Venom Pro Wrestling Women's Champion. Congratulations, Tar Lee. Down in New South Wales at Wrestling Go, Massive Q won the gold medal in his match against Gat last week. By all accounts, this was basically a squash match, which really surprises me. I don't know if Gat is leaving Go and doing honors on the way out, or if this is going to play into a bigger angle. I don't know that there are many angles which squash like this can service, from what I'm hearing, but I want to see it play out. I'm a fan of Go's storytelling, so I'm very curious with this one. Of course, Q and Gat have had an ongoing rivalry now for quite a while. I spoke to Q back in September or October across 2 episodes we did, and it was touched on in that interview, so it goes back further than that even. Wrestling Go have been bringing the goods with the storytelling. I really hope the Matty Wahlberg and Big Fudge match from this last show, Swan Song, I really hope that finds its way online soon. I hope the whole show finds its way online soon, because it looks like a really good show. Sam Osborne showed up, of course, one of our wrestlers you should pay attention to in 2019, doing fantastic work. Jack Bonza was on the show. They also, of course, had Diego's last match. That's why the show was called Swan Song. But yeah, the Matty Wahlberg and Big Fudge match, I really need that one to find its way online, because I've seen half the story already. And that's the thing, I'm a big story guy, right? And I've seen half the story. They swapped bodies, Mick Moretti got involved, he clicked the fingers, and they swapped bodies. And, all week on social media, I was following these guys as they were dedicated to this story. Matty Wahlberg essentially took over Big Fudge's social media, and Big Fudge essentially took over Matty Wahlberg's social media because they were in each other's bodies. Their bodies switched, but their phones didn't, right? So they're on each other's accounts, and they're posting, and it was incredible. It was incredible to watch. It was so entertaining, and I need to see how it ends. I know that they're back in their own bodies now. I've seen Big Fudge's video about being back in his own body and how it's a relief. I've seen the tweets and everything, and I want to see how the match plays out, because I've seen reports of the match, I've seen who wins the match, but I didn't see how they switched bodies, and I want to see it. I want to see it for myself. No one tell me. Don't message me. Don't let me know. Don't at me. I don't want to know how they switch bodies. I want to watch it for myself. So Wrestling Go, please, Wrestling Go, put this match up on YouTube, or even better, I mean, I'll pay for this match. I'll pay for this. So throw it up on Vimeo. Get that whole show up on Vimeo and send me the link, because I want to see how Matty Wahlberg and Big Fudge end up in their own bodies. It looks like a fantastic show. Elsewhere, Matt Rogers just became the Newey Pro Heavyweight Champ again, defeating the Beach Bum Buddha inside a steel cage to regain his coveted title. I've got to imagine Beach Bum Buddha's not going to be happy with that. I mean, he was on his mission to rename the territory Manly Pro Wrestling, and you got to think he's going to be coming back at Matt Rogers again. Very curious to see where this one goes. They've sort of traded the title back and forth now, and Newcastle Pro Wrestling is one that I'm a big fan. Their shows, every time I watch a Newey Pro Wrestling show, it's very entertaining. I just need more of them. I need more. because they run so many shows, but only one or two of them every now and then find their way online. So I need more Newcastle Pro Wrestling in my life. And Matt Rogers as the champion. Matt Rogers is just a huge unit of a man. So, always good to have a big final boss type as the champion. I enjoy that. Meanwhile, across the pond, our neighbours in New Zealand, a title of a different kind changed hands. SPW, that's Southern Pro Wrestling for the uninitiated, they lost their general manager at the end of last year. But at Fight Nights 11, the new SPW GM was revealed to be the education sensation, Professor Palmer. Palmer, of course, is the tutor to the SPW New Zealand Tag Team Champions Detention, kind of a more serious prefect. And I'm very curious to see how he uses his newfound powers. I mean, I touched on it previously when I was talking about Jimmy C. The GM role never comes with enough respect. Lots of controversy. There's never a shortage of controversy, but always a shortage of respect for GMs. So I think the principal of SPW could be a great man for this job to garner that respect from the students, as it were. I'm very curious to see how he wields his power in Southern Pro Wrestling. And, you can, if you are curious as well as to how he will wield his power in Southern Pro Wrestling, you need to get on the app. Southern Pro Wrestling released an app. I'm never going to stop raving about this. PWA released an app. Everyone release apps, please, because the pivot share on an iPad is not the best thing to use, but the app is amazing. It makes it very easy for me to watch all the SPW shows. So definitely get around the SPW app on iOS and Google Play if you are interested in following Southern Pro Wrestling, which you should be, because they're doing amazing things. They, of course, have the upcoming dual-branded show with Melbourne City Wrestling. That's for the Southern Rumble in July. So if you want to see the build to that, you got to get on the SPW app.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Christmas has come and gone, and with it, the disappointment of those Secret Santa staples, the shave kit, the sports hygiene packs, and seasonal socks is fading. As we roll on, though, into the new year, it's time to make resolutions. So why not resolve to look better in 2019 and get yourself the gift that keeps on giving and never disappoints, Threadbox. Threadbox is a subscription clothes shopping service which for as little as $40 per month will send you a box of personally curated goodies straight to your doorstep. I get the $160 package, which comes with over $200 worth of fresh goodies each month. Kept me looking fly for all my Christmas engagements this year. You get to communicate with the Threadbox stylist assigned to you by email regarding what it is you need, and they will tailor the box accordingly. And in the unlikely event that you don't like what they send you, you send it back, they will replace it with something new and make note of the things you don't like so that they can avoid that kind of thing in the future. Threadbox is a truly unbelievable service that no man should be living without, so head over to threadbox.com.au today and use our code TheB+15 when you check out to get 15% off your first box. January is here and we are fast approaching WrestleMania season. Royal Rumble and the road to WrestleMania are around the corner, so the time to dilly-dally is past us. If you want to experience WrestleMania live, and who doesn't, let's be honest, you deserve it. The best and really the only way to do it is with All Aussie Travelers. All Aussie Travelers are new to the wrestling travel package game, but they are veterans at travel, and they have put together a package that cannot be beaten. For less than $7,500, All Aussie Travelers are going to send you to New York, New York, with return flights, airport transfers, full accommodation, and tickets to the WWE Hall of Fame, NXT pre-show party, NXT TakeOver, WrestleMania, Monday Night Raw, SmackDown Live, and more. The coolest part about these packages is that for NXT TakeOver, Raw, and SmackDown, you are going to be seated in your own private VIP suite, normally not available to the public, but All Aussie Travelers have you covered, man. They got this locked down. It has its own bar, it has its own bathroom access, and all the luxuries that a VIP box comes with, not least of which, of course, an incredible view for everything happening in the ring. All of this for under $7,500. They're practically giving these packages away, man. You'd be crazy not to check it out. So head over to All Aussie Travelers on Facebook. The link is in the show notes. And tell them that the B+ sent you. And let's go watch WrestleMania in style. Big news this week, of course, is the rumors that Elliot Sexton has signed to NXT. I did say when the Sex Rock reunion was announced for MCW Vendetta a few weeks ago that it seemed to me like a farewell for both men, much like the PWA match, right? The PWG 3, it's like, oh, Robbie's probably going to go to New Japan, Brooksy's probably going head back to the UK or who knows where these guys are going to end up. They're all so infinitely talented. It felt like a last run, not just for Jonah, but for a lot of these guys, and Elliot Sexton being included. I mean, why put Jonah's farewell in a tag match? As nostalgic as that team is, it really felt like it was a goodbye to both men, not just Jonah, but also Elliot Sexton. I mean, bringing him out of his Australian wrestling ban, the way Law ultimately called out Sexton to pose after the match and he was joined by Jonah, it definitely felt like a farewell to both men to me, not just Jonah. And now with these rumors that Elliot Sexton could be making his way to the Performance Center in February, could we see TMDK just completely take over the yellow brand? What an exciting time to be an Australian wrestling fan, man. I'm so keen to see what Jonah does over there, and Elliot Sexton as well. Honestly, good for Elliot Sexton. If this is true, there isn't anyone who deserves it more. He is such a specimen of a man. He's huge unit and talented in the ring, unendingly charismatic. Anyone who's watched his Trophy Life series knows how charismatic and entertaining and just naturally funny this man is. So I hope it's not the end of Trophy Life either. Friend of the show, Kevin Chiat, tweeted out that he hopes WWE give the network time they had put aside for being the elite to Trophy Life, and I could not agree more. Trophy Life on the WWE network would be a thing of beauty. I need it. Now that it's in my mind, it has to happen. Trophy Life on WWE network, please. So yeah, that farewell, of course, at MCW Vendetta, Jonah's last match there, can be watched, of course, now on MCW Encore. I'm talking about it like I've seen it. That's because I have. The show made its way up onto MCW Encore this week, so get around it, check it out. MCW Vendetta, top to bottom, was a solid outing. Not the best MCW show in recent memory, but the debuts of Rat Daddy, Tali, and of course our very own Melbourne Choice for wrestlers you may not have heard of but should pay attention to in 2019 because they wrestle good and probably do other stuff good too. The Mile High Club, all well worth tuning in for these debuts. The Mile High Club specifically went to war with Robbie Eagles. Their chests looked severely toe up in their post-match interview, where they announced that they will be moving forward as a tag team in MCW. So I'm so excited to see their journey in this division. I think they're in for a big 2019. But that's not the only show that dropped this week. PWA have put Diego's last show for free on YouTube and Facebook. So that's PWA Diego's last show featuring Jimmy Havoc, of course. Yeah, essentially, we were talking about them in all of our chats and stuff. People were like, where's the PWA show? Where's the MCW show? Why haven't these been uploaded yet? People were waiting. And then the news came out that PWA were uploading this show for free to YouTube and Facebook because they had some technical issues. So they obviously, it was a much harder edit. They didn't have the hard cam that they could rely on for the, the easy shots. So they had to sort of chop and change between the cameras that they had. The hard cam footage, for some reason, for the first half of the show accidentally deleted. I think it's a blessing in disguise, to be honest with you, because as a result, they've put the show up for free. And on YouTube, there's 1.6 thousand views on YouTube in the 2 days it's been out. 4.1 thousand views on Facebook as I record this. Their average video has about, 100 views. So some of the free matches and things get close to 1,000 at times. But this is really awesome to see this many views in such a short period of time. I've seen friend of the show, Arnold Furious, from over in the UK. He jumped on and watched it because it was free. He gave it a very positive review on his Rearview Reviews site. He said, Australian wrestling now feels like BritRes did when it was exciting. That's a huge compliment from Arn. He was going crazy on Twitter with OzRes GIFs, marking out over One Direction and some of the more impressive spots of the show as well. And then Jack Bonza had a moment where he marked out for this guy overseas discovering PWA and marking out for them. And a good time is just being had by everyone with this show. The hard cam footage being deleted could be the best thing to happen to start 2019. I mean, remember back when Progress, I think it was chapter 13, Progress chapter 13, they had a similar issue. They lost some of the camera footage, so as a result, the show was delayed. They uploaded it for free on YouTube, and they just exploded online, right? Like, people were really stoked on Progress, and now it's time for people to get stoked on Black Label. I think this is, PWA 2019, PWA are firing on all cylinders. They're going to have more eyes on them than ever now, it seems, and there isn't a single person on that roster that doesn't have some kind of story going or some kind of reason for being, and it's something PWA do exceptionally well. I'm very excited for the future with PWA. You can listen to our show recap, of course, for both of these shows, MCW Vendetta and PWA Diego's Last Show featuring Jimmy Havoc. What a mouthful that show title is. PWA Black Label Diego's Last Show featuring Jimmy Havoc. You can go back and listen. We did a recap with guys who were at the show live after they happened. And so if you are interested to, of course, check out the shows online, I will link those in the show notes. And then you can, of course, go back and listen to what we thought of the shows on those episodes there. But that's not all this week. There's also a few matches that released online, singular matches that I wanted to plug. I got into these matches this week. So Australian wrestling legend, The Enforcer, he had his last match recently against Dowie James. So that was in Showdown Wrestling, and they've released it in full on Facebook. His protege, Dowie James, retirement match. You can watch the whole thing now on Facebook. His contributions to Australian wrestling are vast. Much of the foundation of the Melbourne boom is thanks to this man, so go check it out. And his and Dowie's speeches after the match are fantastic. Pay some respects to a legend of the sport in Australia and give this one a watch. Elsewhere, though, in Aussie wrestlers overseas, Shazza McKenzie went to Singapore Pro Wrestling at the end of the year last year for a ladies' night show. I believe Indy Hartwell was on the show as well in a match that has been uploaded with Alexis Lee. I'll link that one too. But Shazza's match against Imi Sakura has been uploaded this week. It's a very fun match, well worth a watch. I will link it in the show notes for you to check out. And while you're there, feel free to go down the rabbit hole of Singapore Pro Wrestling videos on YouTube, which will inevitably lead you to Philippine Wrestling Revolution out of the Philippines, Grapple Max in Singapore, New Taiwan Wrestling, and many, many more. The Southeast Asian scene is booming right now, much like our scene is. I've put out the call a few times on this show that our promoters would do well to draw on some of the talent in the wider Asia Pacific region, and that, you know, more of our talent should be booked over there as well. We should be building relationships with these promotions. The more of you, dear listeners, who go down this rabbit hole with me on YouTube and become fans of these guys, the more likely it is to happen. The more we work together, the bigger everyone gets. So that's what I really want to see happen in the Australia Asia Pacific region over the coming years. There's some great talents in the Southeast Asia region. They've got guys like Lady Killer, Greg Glorious, Trexus, The Statement, Crystal, Alexis Lee, Showcat, many, many more. And perhaps one of my favorite promotions in the region, MyPW, Malaysia Pro Wrestling. Brilliant piece of marketing magic, by the way, having My in your little promotion acronym. So it's Malaysia Pro Wrestling, but they shorten it to MyPW. Every time I say it, as a fan, it implies ownership, like just in your dinosaur brain. And within my brain, it just gets me work, even though they're an ocean away, and I've never been to a live event. I just watch these guys on YouTube, but, you know, it feels like it's one of my feds, right? It's one of my feds. It's MyPW. And yeah, amazing name. Anyway, MyPW, one of their top stars, one of their first stars, is actually packing up his life and moving to Australia to study. So many people are sleeping on this story. He is one of the best kept secrets of the indie wrestling world. A child wrestling prodigy, someone I'm a big fan of, I see big potential in. He's moving to Australia. He doesn't have any bookings. He's moving over here, and only one promoter has reached out to talk to him. So I was talking to him on Facebook, and when I found out he's moving here, I saw a status on Facebook that he was moving here, and I'm like, holy crap, people need to know about this. I know, I have to get him on the show. So here it is, my interview with another wrestler you may not have heard of, but should definitely pay attention to in 2019. New Melbourne resident and the golden boy of Southeast Asian wrestling, Emman the Kid Noorazman. Joining me now by the magic of the internet, he is the golden boy of Southeast Asian professional wrestling, Emman the Kid. How are you, Emman?
I'm good. How are you? What's up?
Yeah, I'm well. Thank you so much for coming on the show, man.
No problem.
I'm kind of breaking the gimmick a little bit. So the whole thing here is this is a Aussie Grapps show. I talk to Aussie grapplers and Aussie grappler adjacent people. And you're, of course, from Malaysia.
Yep.
but you're headed here, right? You're actually moving to Australia soon?
Yes, I am. I'll be moving next week.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you so much for taking the time. Like, it must be a really busy time packing up your whole life.
Yeah, I haven't started packing, but it's going to be one hectic time.
Yeah. As soon as I heard that you were coming here, I knew like I have to talk to this guy. But yeah, let's go back, right? Let's rewind and let's ask obviously the most basic question. What got you into professional wrestling?
What got me into professional wrestling? That's a good question. I was never really into wrestling at first, but when my grandma started watching it, I got hooked onto it. Is usually because of, how, not because of the larger guys in wrestling, but it's also because of the smaller guys such as Rey Mysterio. Because to me, I'm not that much of a big guy too, even in Southeast Asia, let alone in another country.
Yeah.
So that just got to me.
Right. So seeing Rey Mysterio was kind of the guy that hooked you?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so how, like, is pro wrestling a big thing, like WWE fandom? Is that a big thing in Malaysia or?
Yes. WWE is the top one in Malaysia, but now more Malaysians are starting to like more indie wrestling because of, like All Elite. So they're starting to branch out more. So, which is a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, all the stuff with like All Elite and stuff, like I feel like it's sort of catching on all over the world. And yeah, I noticed that happening in the Philippines as well, because my partner is from the Philippines, and it's like they've had big WWE fandom for a long time, but they're starting to get more into indie wrestling. It's great.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, so I was looking through your YouTube, right? And that goes way back, man. Like I was watching like 12 or 13-year-old Emman doing like toy unboxings and WWE 2K14 videos and stuff. It's amazing. Are you still a collector? Are you still into that side of things?
No, I'm mostly into wrestling now because I don't really have a lot of time, so I focus myself on training most of the time.
Yeah, fair enough. Just because I just thought it was great. Does that, like, growing up, because I'm a lot older than you, obviously, so growing up with the internet and stuff, like every single move you've made since you were like 12 years old is documented on there.
Yeah, that's crazy to think. Wow.
Yeah, so I was looking at like your Tough Enough thing that you did and everything. It was pretty awesome. But 4 years ago or so, you wound up training with Shaukat at MyPW, or Malaysia Pro Wrestling, and you were part of the first class there. Is that right?
Yeah. So I was the first 4 that joined for the first year. Yeah.
Right. And how did you find Shaukat? How did you find MyPW?
Okay, so the reason how I found Shaukat was because it was way before like MyPW started. We met together during a Booker T meet and greet when he came down, and we just became friends. But I later found out that he was opening a wrestling school called MyPW, and I found it all over Facebook. So it was advertised all over Facebook saying that, we're trying to find wrestlers, so here's a tryout. And from then on, it was just like no stopping when it comes to wrestling.
Right. And so how old were you when you started, like, training?
I started training when I was 13, so now it marks my 5 years in wrestling.
That's so crazy. So even though, you're so young, but you've been doing it for half a decade.
Yeah, oh my god, my body's like starting to feel everything.
Like already, yeah, even at your young age.
Yeah.
Yeah. How long into training did MyPW start sort of running shows and have you sort of in the ring actually putting on performances? How long in was that?
Actually, we first started off wrestling in Muay Thai rings. So every bump was a really hard bump because there's no, spring or whatnot. But we started training for about a year and a half. Then we had our first standalone show called MyPW Uprising.
Right.
I think that was when I was 14. So that was the first show was fully packed, 500 people, which is crazy to think.
Yeah. That's crazy. And that's what I mean. It's really like people don't realize this. I feel like a lot of people listening to this wouldn't realize, but the Southeast Asian wrestling scene is really hot. Like you guys are getting good crowds over there and putting on fantastic shows. So, but
yeah, it's getting big. Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't too long after that. It was still when you were in the Muay Thai ring, right, with the 4 ropes that you became the first ever PG Mania champion with MyPW.
Yeah. Oh my god, that ring was so stiff.
I can tell just from watching it, man.
Yeah.
Every time you guys take a bump in that ring, I'm like, oh, someone's gonna die.
Yeah, it was scary.
But yeah, how did it feel like with MyPW, like in its infancy, and you as sort of a baby wrestler? How did it feel being trusted to be sort of the first PGMania champion?
That was pretty cool because I never expected myself to be a wrestler or a champion at that age. But with training and dedication, and they saw what I could do. They put my trust. They put the championship on me because they trust me. So that was a pretty big deal for a 14-year-old kid.
Yeah, absolutely. To be like representing the brand and stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's been really interesting, like, for me, so following your journey, even, like, coming in later and going back to it and finding things, because I first saw you when you popped up on PWR against Quattro.
Mm.
Right, so,
Yeah.
but going back and following your journey, like, just from what's been made available online and stuff, we can see as you're trying, like, new things, like, at one point you did, like, the Finn Balor sort of, like, that was in the title match, right, where you did the face paint, bringing out the demon, and sort of seeing you develop your character and discover yourself on the journey toward becoming the Golden Boy. So I think that's the golden question, right? What is the Golden Boy?
Oh, what is the Golden Boy? So I first started off as Emman the Kid, which is just, a plucky young kid that likes to do wrestling. So as I evolved, right, I started to think like, wow, I may be young, but I think I'm one of the best in Southeast Asia. And, compared to everyone else, I feel like, wow, I am pretty good. So I should call myself the Golden Boy. And plus, a lot of people backstage or like in the wrestling industry in Southeast Asia like to tease me because they said, oh yeah, you're a mama's boy, you get money from them and you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
So you know what, like, yeah, I don't want to swear, but I say F it, right? You know what, I'll just go along with that gimmick. I'll turn myself up 110% or 200%, and now I'm the Golden Boy, and this is a great gimmick that is working for me.
Yeah, man, I feel like that's the best wrestling gimmick. Sorry, it's like when you lean into it, right? If people are already saying that you are something,
right,
just lean into it and turn it up.
Right, yeah. So that was just a blessing in disguise, or else I wouldn't know where I would be today without the Golden Boy gimmick.
Right, because the crowd sort of started, it was kind of like the John Cena effect, right? They were like, oh, we're going to start turning on this kid because the company wants us to love this kid.
Yeah.
And like you said, with the rise of indie wrestling and the cool heel, everyone sort of turned on you, but then becoming this Golden Boy character, and then everyone loves you again.
Yeah, it's so weird because when they know that you're meant to win, or you're picking up a few wins in a row, they start to boo you and start to cheer the heel.
Yeah.
So as I turned it around, I started to get more cheers now, which is super odd.
Yeah, it's a weird. We're in a weird place with a lot of wrestling fandom, especially with the
we're in that weird. Yeah, that is so weird.
It is. It's an odd journey, but since adopting sort of the Golden Boy shtick and everything, you've gone on to become, I guess, kind of like the gold standard in the burgeoning Southeast Asian scene, right? I mean, traveling out to Singapore, the Philippines, Japan for the Grapple Max showcase.
Oh yeah.
Like, all the companies over there are starting to, like, work together, bring talent all around the place. How is it wrestling in all these various different places against the biggest names in the scene too?
It's awesome because, you get to make new friends, and then you get, to branch yourself out to new audiences. And especially Japan. Japan was a big deal for me because I became the first ever Malaysian to wrestle in Japan.
Right.
So that was a pretty cool experience. And Singapore and Philippines was always good too. I started to make good friends with them, and the audiences started to know me, which is a good thing. So it's all about branching yourself out, or else if you're not going anywhere, right, then how are you supposed to branch yourself out?
Right, like facing more people, learning new things.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask specifically about Grapple Max. We talked about the Mai Tai ring and how crazy it was bumping in there. Grapple Max is cool. Like, they don't have ropes, right? When they do the Singapore shows, anyway. The Shinkabao showcase that was in a regular ring, but when you go to Grapple Max in Singapore itself, there's no ropes. How is it working a ring with no ropes?
It's something different because when you're in a ring, you're just used to running or doing anything aerial. My moveset consists of mostly using the rope.
Yeah.
So when I transitioned to Grapple Max, it was a bit difficult at first, but once I got the hang of it, it was pretty fun. It's more interactive because you're in a very close environment with all the fans near you. So it gets tiring because there's not a lot of rope stuff that you can do, but it's something you can else you can do something different. You can grapple more. That's why they call Grapple Max. It's mostly towards technical side rather than jumping and running.
Yeah, so it encourages you to be more rounded in your sort of ring work.
Yeah, because if you're too comfortable in one place, you're not going to get anywhere.
Right. So always pushing. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, look, since you're moving to Australia, you've been kind of wrapping up your dates, saying farewell to the crowds that have taken this journey with you and helped you become the Golden Boy. And probably the most emotional one, no surprise, of course, because it's where you started, was with MyPW at Wrestle Nation against the Prophet of Pain, Shaukat, who is, I mean, he's your mentor.
Yeah.
That was like a special one-off match because he came out of like semi-retirement to do this match, yeah?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
So how was it having Shaukat sort of come out of that semi-retirement with MyPW to give you that send-off?
Well, it was pretty crazy because, you know, he's mostly towards the coaching side now. But once he found out that, you know, I was leaving and then a good friend of mine, Daryl Wong, was leaving, you know, he's like, oh, I better, you know, put on a good match for you because you've done a lot for us. And sure or not, that was one, you know, tough match for me. That was, I think the longest match I've ever had in a show.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it went on for 20, 30 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, look, I've watched it 4 or 5 times because it's an amazing match. And yeah, I'll link that match in the show notes even for people to check out.
Cool,
Yeah,
awesome.
I mean, that match, you and Shaka, it was just, yeah, it just kept elevating and elevating, right? And it did. It went for like 30 minutes. It was one of the best matches in 2018, in my opinion.
Oh, thank you so much. That's such a big thing to say. So thank you so much.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, with you heading our way to Australian shores, are you familiar with much of the Aussie Grapps scene over here? Are you familiar with some of the guys over here?
Well, yeah, I am familiar with some of the guys, but not everyone. But I'm learning.
Right. So you've seen probably like the big ones, yeah, like Melbourne City Wrestling, PWA, that sort of stuff?
Yeah.
And do you have any names like on your wish list as you come over here? Do you have any names that you want to be getting in the ring with, like who you would like to work with?
Ooh, the first one that comes to mind is possibly Robbie Eagles,
right?
And then Adam Brooks, you know. Oh, and I also want to get, you know, in a ring with Rufio. He looks like a pretty chill dude.
Yeah, absolutely. Rufio's been a guest of the show before, and
that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, Queensland wrestling. Rufio's up in Queensland, so like in Australia, things are really spread out because because we're such a big country, and you know, not many people for such a big place. So it's, I mean, I'd say I don't know in terms of geography. I think it's actually pretty similar to the Southeast Asian scene. I'd say like it's each spot is kind of isolated and stuff. And Rufio's up there in Queensland, and he'd be a great person to work up there for sure. So you're moving to Victoria though, right?
Yeah.
And have you spoken to any promotions? Have you spoken to any promoters? Any schools? Have you reached out about working or training? What's the plan for 2019 once you touch down?
Well, I recently reached out to Melbourne City Wrestling. I'm still waiting for the emails because my plan is to start training with them in the MCW Academy.
Right.
But I also message maybe, you know, Wham Bam Bellows or Aaron O'Malley.
Yep.
Yeah, so I asked them what schools are good too, and they helped me quite a lot actually in trying to find a school and trying to get bookings, so that, you know, a shout out to them.
Yeah, awesome. And have any promoters sort of reached out to you at all?
There's one actually, I think it's called Iron Fist in Adelaide.
Yes, that's one of my home promotions. Yeah, because I'm an Adelaide boy. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, Iron Fist.
Cool.
Iron Fist Pro are sick. They focus on like the strong style. Like they call themselves Worldwide Strong Style sort of thing. Like they had Hideki Suzuki versus Jonah Rock as the main event for their first show.
Oh wow! Well,
yeah.
For the first show, dang. Okay, yeah. That's cool.
And they're bringing Strong Hearts out for show number 2.
Oh, that is awesome. Well, Strong Hearts is such a...
The Rascals, though. Like, so the Rascals...
Oh, yeah. Rascals. Yeah,
so not Strong Hearts proper, but like, part of the Strong Hearts, yeah. So Iron Fist Pro would be an amazing promotion for you, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. Yeah. They sound pretty good.
Yeah, so the plan is, so you're hoping to hear back from Melbourne City Wrestling. Melbourne City Wrestling, guys, if you're listening, hit up Emman, because he's amazing. He's called the Prodigy for a reason. So... Where can people find you to follow everything that you've got coming up in 2019 for your journey here as it starts this new chapter in Australia?
You know, you can always follow me on Facebook at Emman the Kid, or I mostly use Instagram, so it's Emman_thekid.pw. So, and then you could also, like you said, you can watch me on YouTube at Malaysia Pro Wrestling or Emman the Kid. You can always search up my names, so I'll just pop up somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. And Malaysia Pro Wrestling, Singapore Pro Wrestling, Pro Wrestling Revolution over in the Philippines, these places are all putting on fantastic content, and it's all up on the YouTube, so you can check it out. You can see some amazing Emman matches. I might even, what I might do on Facebook this weekend, I might host, like, on Sunday, sometimes I host, like, watch parties. So we'll do a watch party with a couple of Emman matches that I can find on Facebook Watch, and we'll, just to encourage people to come check it out, because, yeah, I'm really excited to see you come to Australia, man. I wish you the best of luck in
Thank
your
you so much.
transition over here, and, of course, all your studies and everything in regular life that you're going to do. But I'm looking forward to seeing you on our shores.
Thank you so much. I hope to see you soon.
Yeah, thanks for coming on the show, man. So there you have it, folks. Emman, the Kid Noorazman, the golden boy of Southeast Asian wrestling, my first ever international guest on the show. All my colleagues are excited about talking to Bruce Pritchard and Jimmy Havoc and all these huge names, and I'm just like, I just want to get the kid from Malaysia, man. I was so stoked to have him on. Thank you so much, Emman, for coming on this show. I really hope that, and anyone listening to the show, tell your local feds, tell PWA, tell MCW, tell NAW, tell Warzone Wrestling, tell Iron Fist, tell Riot City, tell everyone, tell the world. Emman, the kid, is in Australia, and he needs to be booked. He needs to show us what he can do. He can have some amazing matches in this country. Just thinking of Emman versus Kai Drake, or Paris De Silva, or Stevie Philippe, or Robbie Eagles. Just some of these matchups, man. Just to imagine seeing Emman the Kid across the ring from Matt Grim Basso, just the mountain of a man. And there's the golden boy. There are so many matchups that I would salivate at seeing. And I'll put a link in the show notes for his match against Showcat, which is a brilliant 30-minute indie classic that I absolutely fell in love with when I saw it. And there's a bunch of matches. I'm going to try to pull some of them together from Facebook videos, because I know there's a few Facebook videos out there amongst these promotions. I'm going to put together a playlist that we can watch on Sunday afternoon, just like we did last week with the Iron Fist show. I'm going to do a little bit of a watch party with Emman the Kid matches. People need to get around this. People need to be talking about it, because Emman the Kid, it has so much potential, and I'm very excited to see him wrestle here in Australia against some of our guys. Someone else I'd love to see him wrestle against, I can't believe it slipped my name, Craven. Craven would have an amazing match with this kid, and Craven was on Wrestle Radio Australia. That's right. I am not the only person who speaks to Aussie grapplers or grappler-adjacent people. If you like that interview and you want to hear some other interviews with Aussie grapplers, you need to check out Wrestle Radio Australia. He had Todd Eastman had a wonderful host over there. He had Craven on this week. Craven, of course, a previous guest on this show. Fantastic interview. You want to get around it. JXT has launched a podcast recently, Talking Stick, and last week and this week, a two-parter interview with Australian wrestling legend Lobo, looking to fill in some of the gaps in Australian pro wrestling history. I love the mission, JXT. I love what you're doing. Keep up the good work, and yeah, definitely everyone get out and check out this interview with Lobo. Buddy Murphy was also on Lillian Garcia's Chasing Glory podcast this week, so if you want to hear him talk about his tryout, teaming with Wesley Brake, transitioning to the Cruiserweight division, winning here in Australia, all that good stuff, you want to listen to Lillian Garcia's Chasing Glory podcast. Meanwhile, our friends on the Turnbuckle, big week this week, talking to Bruce Pritchard, and of course, more importantly, Tali, where they talk about the aforementioned chicken nugget scandal. It's KFC, guys. That's the end of the story, but the On the Turnbuckle guys also joined me here yesterday to speculate wildly about a WWE Australia tournament that we've heard whispers about. So very exciting stuff on the horizon. If you want to hear about it all, check the show notes and you will find links to all those wonderful podcasts. But now, let's take a look at what's happening this weekend near you. In Victoria on Friday night, APW Breakout 8 sees all the upcoming talent at the Adrenaline Academy in Seaford show their stuff in the ring. They're going to have a sausage sizzle, cold drinks, Zupa Dupas for everyone. Tickets for that one are $10. Then on Saturday night, Australia Day. New Age Wrestling present NAW Pure on Australia Day. James Jackson faces Kane Morozov in an old school rematch. Damian Rivers goes one-on-one with Jeremy Smacks. Matty Wild gets in the ring with Gore. Callan Butcher and Marcus Blaze go at it, and much, much more. That rhymed. Tickets for this one start at $15. PCW Summer Series Grand Final also happens on Australia Day at the Southeastern Entertainment Centre. There will be a cage match with relentless Mark Cage putting his title on the line against the presidency of Dr. Troy Alexander. And of course, the Summer Series Cup will be decided between Edward Dusk, Wake, Nate Cross, and Cass Stone, as well as the Summer Series Tag Cup, where RB4K, Ryan Rapid, and Sammy Falcon take on Jason Blade and Andy Walker. Of course, we talked about it last week, the return of Sid Parker to the territory to take on national champion Lucas Daniels for the first time ever. Tickets start at $20 for this one, and for my money, it is the hottest ticket in Australian wrestling this weekend for sure. Up in New South Wales on Saturday, Australia Day, New South Wales, AWF present Australia Day Wrestling 2019 at Mothership Studios in Marrickville. Chris Rucker faces Wesley Williams. Jonathan Corviday makes the trip up from South Australia to take on one half of the AWF Tag Team Champions, DJ Sonic. Deadly Shot Kasai takes on the returning Whiskey 6, and Australian wrestling legend Ozzy Osbourne takes on Keegan Brettle, who has just returned from another trip to Canada. We spoke to him last year. I'm fairly sure he spent more time in America and Canada last year than he did back here at home, so who knows how long he's going to be around this time. If you want to get out and check him out, this could be your only opportunity. It probably won't be, but it's going to be one of your only opportunities because this is a traveled man. He gets all around the place. Tickets are $20 for that one. And then on Monday, Rock and Roll Wrestling are having their 2019 season launch and Royal Rumble viewing party. It kicks off at 10:30 a.m. at the City Diggers Wollongong. It's free to get in. Watch the Rumble there. There will be competitions, prizes, giveaways. It's going to be all kinds of fun. In a similar vein down in Melbourne, MCW are hosting a Rumble watch party at the Sporting Globe in Richmond. And here in Adelaide, Adelaide Championship Wrestling will be at the Morphett Arms Hotel for the Royal Rumble. Plenty of places you can get out and watch the wrestles with other people in your area. Watch the Rumble with other local Rumblers. So get around it. I'm going to try to get out to the Morphett Vale Arms. It's going to depend on how I'm feeling because I'm in a world of hurt right now waiting for this damn surgery. But that's enough complaining and whining from me. Thank you guys so much for checking out what we do here at the B+ with our very strong focus on Aussie Grapps. If you like what we do, if you want to get in on the ground floor with this Watch Global Support Local mission, the best way to do it is by supporting our sponsors who you've heard throughout this show. If you'd rather support us directly, you can always do that at patreon.com/theb+, where every dollar we take from you goes straight back into growing the show and providing you with awesome rewards that we're working on. Custom episodes, ad-free stuff, of course. We have a Discord chat where we talk with our Patreon subscribers. Really cool stuff that we're looking to offer throughout 2019. So jump on board, like, share, subscribe. If you like what we do, 5-star review, and thank you so much for listening.
Hold one. Arm drag.
You're not good at this. Get out. Let me tell you a personal story about Vince McMahon.
You just made the list. Oh my God.
Sorry, no speak English.
Dummy. Yeah. Goodbye and good night. Hold two. Arm bar.
This is the worst town I've ever been in.
It's still real to me, damn it. Dummy. Yeah. Hold three. The moss covered. Three-handle family grununcle. Mamma mia. It's me, Austin. It was me all along, Austin. Number 4, armbar.